Alright, so this is gonna be my pretty loose draft guide. I just have two teams that I've kind of planned out in my head that both have their own kind of goals, and we're going to kind of simulate how they would draft against each other. So we'll give one team the first pick, and we're gonna go through picks first. Then we'll go through the bands that team would want to go through if they want this desired team. So for the first team, we're going to say they grab Clefable as their first pick. We're going to use this kind of graph to measure why they would want them. So Clefable has great area healing. It has great shutdown for divers, things like speedsters, things with dashes, because it can drop gravity. And then if the team does not pick divers, they would pick things with like auto attacks, things with range, and Follow Me is great at pulling those characters' attention away from their team and just the Clefable. I would still put Clefable a little bit below, like average is like, this is a good pick. It can be countered, but it's not too overpowered. Clefable is really strong, but it is very easily countered by good special attack backliners. Things like Miraidon with anti-heal, just constantly poke from a distance, and if the Clefable isn't running X-Speed or Eject, and even then, it will have a hard time getting the Follow Me to connect with the backline. So I would put it slightly below, still a great pick, and it forces the other team to not pick dashes. Clefable is like the perfect example of it forces the other team to pick a certain type of characters. So now the other team gets two picks, and this is in the current meta, so these top picks could change, but the ideas behind them won't. So the other team will pick Snorlax first. Snorlax, incredibly good stuns, incredibly good Unite move, incredibly good block move, solid early game too with good secure, good self-sustain with his passive, being able to run to berries. So we are going to put him pretty high up on this list. He is always a consistent pick, very tanky, very good at stunning big groups of enemies or singling out one enemy. Block is just the ultimate repositioning tool, and even Yawn is pretty good for just keeping people stationary if that's what you want. And then for their next pick, we're going to say they grab Delmise. So Delmise is a Pokemon that could very easily shift away from this spot. We're going to put him here. He is extremely good at battling frontline. He has a lot of burst. He has great engage on backline, but it is very skill shot dependent. His Unite move, of course, is a great engage because it pulls him towards enemies, but that is only his Unite move. He will only be able to use that 2 to 3 times a game, and its charge isn't the fastest. So his hook is good, but it is a skill shot, and can be very hard to hit on attackers with good mobility or that are very far back that the hook just can't reach. It is still very good for battling frontline, and it does not have any real built-in dashes other than the move that you can pick instead of hook, which is just not as good and not as utility useful. So Delmise will go here mainly because it is a great brawler. It does not have dashes, so it does not get countered by Clefable. It can actually catch Clefable really easily because Clefable has to be with their team, and if the Delmise is good, they can hook the Clefable and pull that healing away. So I'd actually probably move him up just a little bit. He's not as flexible as Snorlax because he's very easily countered by good attackers, but he is still very high up. Obviously, if his damage gets nerfed, if range gets nerfed, he could fall down the list. So now the other team has a lot of picks they could go for, right? They could go for more like bulky defenders. They could go for all-rounders. The other team has already picked a defender, so they don't have that much pressure to pick a defender. So they are going to pick Miraidon as their second pick. Miraidon has amazing range, can poke from a really far distance, and is a very good direct counter to Dhelmise. And it is able to be protected because Clefable has gravity. So this gives a lot of utility to Miraidon, because now Miraidon basically just has free poke damage on this front line, with Clefable being able to protect it with gravity. So the other team does not have a whole lot of engage on that backline. So Miraidon is an amazing pick here. Might even just be like the best pick that this team could grab. There are other special attackers, things like Gardevoir, things like Venusaur, that are good here as well. But Miraidon has much lower cooldowns and much longer chip damage, which can really blow through healing on goal zones. It also has its passive that does weaken goal zones. So it is extremely, extremely good for pushing goal zones. Better than almost any other attacker. And then for its next pick, it has a lot of options in terms of like speedsters that it could go. Since they know that Clefable is gone, they can pick something with high dashes. And a speedster that is very good right now is Scyther. A good Scyther can just run through games, and Scyther normally runs full heal. So I would put him around here. He can still get very easily shut down by a good Snorlax, and he can also get hooked out of position by a Dhelmise. But I would still say that he is a very, very strong pick here, and this puts a lot of pressure on the other team on what they are going to pick as their backline. So now, for the other team, they get 2 picks. We're going to say their next pick is Umbreon. So Umbreon has the utility of Mean Look, and they are going to want to go Mean Look Wish here because they are going double Defender. They need something that can provide healing, right? So they want to go Wish so that they can give these heals to Dhelmise so that he can continue in fights. They can give these bulky heals to Snorlax so they can stay in fights. They're playing for a very bulky frontline, but something that Umbreon lacks a lot is stuns when they go Wish and Mean Look. So they need this. So this Snorlax was a great pick. This even moves Snorlax up a little bit because he provides so much stun and makes up for Umbreon's shortcomings. And now Umbreon's Mean Look easily shuts down Scyther, keeps him from comboing through enemies, easily keeps Miraidon in one position, making it easy for their team to jump on them, and is a great companion to Snorlax and Dhelmise, keeping them alive in the front line, and counters Clefable's ult by using their Unite move to steal their shielding, especially if they're running Buddy Barrier, which most Clefables do. So you can see how Clefable put a lot of pressure on them to pick certain Pokemon, but now Clefable's value has slightly fallen because they are just picking Pokemon good into Clefable. For their 4th pick, they're going to pick Venusaur. Venusaur has great area damage, great burst, not the best mobility. So we're still going to put him down here because he can really struggle into a Miraidon that is constantly on the move with their ranged attacks. So their beams might not always hit, and then they just get poked down by a Miraidon, and they can also very easily die to a Scyther. But they are a great counter to Clefable, and these 2 defenders, along with Dhelmise, can perfectly protect this Venusaur. This Venusaur just needs to play the game safely, so small mistakes can really screw over this Venusaur player. So we're going to put them a little bit below average, but still a very strong pick overall. Other attackers they could have gone are Alolan Raichu. Alolan Raichu has good mobility, but really lacks the range that they might need to be able to kill this Miraidon, right? So they're going to go Venusaur here. They might suffer into the Scyther, but as long as they can keep this front line alive and kind of peeling back for this Venusaur, they should be okay. I don't have an all-rounder pulled for this team, mainly because with this team's current structure, any all-rounder could work for them. But in terms of defenders, there are 2 really good options. There are Crustle, Crustle is very good for shutting down groups of enemies. It pops a wall, it pops X Scissor into that wall, and then it uses its Unite move. So now it basically, if it is attacked, it's doing revenge damage, meaning it's just sweeping through groups of enemies, which is very, very good. So Crustle is extremely, extremely strong for this team in particular because they have such a frontline charging against them. They have such a frontline charging against their Clefable, against their Miraidon, against their Scyther, that Crustle can really easily keep them at bay. Their second defender option would be something like Slowbro. Slowbro has Surf, great area control on groups of enemies, but it also has its Unite move and Telekinesis. Here, into this team, because the enemy team has so much Unstoppable, they might want to run something more like Amnesia to just stay in the fights longer so that they can use Surf more. But their Unite move provides so much value for this Miraidon because say this Dhelmise uses their Unite move, they get on this Miraidon, Slowbro unites this Dhelmise is not going anywhere. And it's impossible to cancel it unless the other team has, say, a Mega Charizard or something like that. So this Slowbro pick would be amazing here, and so would Crustle. Both of these picks provide similar things. This thing can shut down groups of enemies. This thing can shut down groups of enemies, but just not as well, but it can single out other Pokemon extremely well. It can shut down this Venusaur, allowing the Scyther to just easily jump on them. It can shut down this Dhelmise, allowing them to counter him if he dives them right on. In terms of all-rounders, most of their all-rounders would fit into this category because they're just going to have a really hard time into this front line. But all-rounders like Blaziken, like Gyarados, even, like, let's say, you could even say Scizor, you could say Zacian, Buzzwole, any all-rounders that can kind of provide burst but also mobility would be good for this team so they can kind of go in and go out on this front line. So something like Zacian is a perfect example because it can very easily go in and out on this team, use their dashes to engage, use their boosteds, and then disengage. They can use their Unite moves to really chip down their HP. So Zacian would be a solid pick, but it would still fall into this category because it can be very easily shut down by something like an Umbreon Mean Look, a Snorlax Block into Heavy Slam, or the other way around, or a Dhelmise Hook into a Whirlpool, and it just dies instantly. So this team basically has their team comp laid out. They are trying to enable their Scyther and their Miraidon as much as possible while keeping their front line at least a little bit strong with the Clefable healing, right? The last pick for the bottom team here would probably be something like Talonflame. So Talonflame with Fly or Brave Bird is extremely, extremely good into Miraidon. It has a really, really easy time diving onto those Pokemon, and with Fly iframes, where it cannot be hit inside of Fly, it is extremely good for getting onto this backline and just destroying the Scyther, destroying the Miraidon, securing kills on the Clefable. But what brings this Pokemon's value down just a little bit is their play into Clefable. They cannot use their Fly straight onto a Clefable as they drop gravity because then they'll have no way to get out unless they have a full heal, which greatly reduces their utility. So Talonflame is very good for this team comp. He gives them the secure that they need, the burst that they need, the mobility that they need, because this team is very slow but bulky. So Talonflame provides a lot for this team, just not. It will have a hard time into this team comp because Slowbro can shut it down so easily, Clefable can shut it down so easily, even Crustle can. Miraidon is going to have a really hard time into him. They just need to play safe. and Scyther will also have a hard time into him because he just has more burst than Scyther does, but Scyther has more healing. So if Scyther is fighting him against this other team, Scyther might actually survive a bit longer than you would expect, especially if Clefable's with him. But if he's taking a 1v1 against the Talonflame, he will most likely lose. So these team comps, and just imagine an all-rounder is here. Let's put Zacian. So just imagine Zacian is also here. So these team comps vary back and forth with the way they're fighting against each other. Both teams need different game plans. They could approach all of their fights in very different ways. Now we can kind of move to bans. And the main thing about bans is just like what Pokemon they actually think would cause problems for their team comp. So for the top team here, their front line is a little bit lacking, and their amount of burst is lacking. They don't have amazing secure, right? So they might want to ban things like, where is he? Things like Blaziken. Great secure, can go through a backline really easily. They might also want to ban something like Suicune. Suicune stuns groups of enemies, keeps them from really doing anything, can really immobilize Clefables, really immobilize Zacians, and Crustals or Slowbros, and Scythers as well. And then last, they might just want to ban a Mega Charizard. Very strong Pokemon right now, but also can really plow through their entire team and directly counter their Slowbro. The other team might want to ban something like Vaporeon. Vaporeon is area healing and also area stuns, which could be very problematic for their team. They might also want to ban, let's see, what else would be an issue for this team? They're very frontline heavy, so they don't want to deal with something like Suicune. Again, Suicune's another good example. Even something like... Glaceon would be an issue for them because Glaceon just has so much area damage if enemies are grouping up. Espeon has a really, really solid early game and good stuns, and if you look at this team, they spike pretty late. Dhelmise has a pretty solid spike at level 5. Umbreon doesn't have a great spike at level 4. Snorlax has a good spike at level 5. Not a very good spike at level 5, and not a very good spike at level 5. These Pokemon need level 7, and he needs level 6. Meanwhile, the other team, great spike at level 5, spikes at level 4, spikes at level 5, an amazing spike at level 5, and then these two also spike. I think they spike at level 4. This guy might spike at level 5. And then Zacian also has an amazing level spike at 5. So this team, very reliant on just like getting their early levels, and then they can really easily steamroll through teams, right? This team needs to play a bit more safe, a bit more campy, get their levels, and then they can win that late game. So they might want to ban something like Espeon that would cause a lot of issues in an early game situation. And then lastly, they might just want to ban something like Blissey. Because they have so much healing, so much stun, and so much like burst, they don't want to deal with something like Blissey that can give a one carry, something like a Blaziken or a Zacian or a Buzzwole, unstoppable, and then give them an ult that just allows them to kind of plow through their front line. So this is probably what you would see in terms of bans. I mean, you could see target bans as well, but in terms of just general meta and what the Pokemon do, these are pretty general bans for each of these teams because of the team comps that they're trying to build.